Hi guys, Jordan Moorhead with the Moorhead team here today, talking about buying real estate in a recession. Now, recording this in June of 2022, we're not technically in a recession yet, but a recession is defined as 2 consecutive quarters of economic decline. If you're watching this anytime around June 2022, you've seen we probably had some economic decline in the last 2 quarters. And because of that, people are really scared of a lot of things. So today we're going to talk about a subject that I do, buying real estate. So buying real estate in a recession gets a little bit complicated, mainly because everything from everybody, every news source, everywhere is telling you to not do anything. Things are bad, things seem scary, don't do anything. And I'm going to tell you why I think recession is the best time to buy real estate. So recession doesn't necessarily mean that real estate prices are effective, except in the last recession that we had in 2008. It was a debt-fueled recession. Real estate debt was the hardest hit. And of course, real estate prices were massively hit in 2008. Now, in the last 7 recessions, we've only had 5 of those where real estate prices went down. The 2 where they went down dramatically, of course, were the Great Depression and the Great Recession. So in the 20s, late 20s, and in 2008, real estate prices got hammered. Everything got hammered in those, but in 2008 especially, real estate prices got hammered. But normally, real estate does not get severely affected in a recession. Things like the stock market, now things like cryptocurrency, those can get really hurt in a recession. So, we might see stocks get hurt like they've been getting hurt these last couple of weeks. So in the last 2 days when I'm filming this, stocks are almost down 5%. In the last couple of weeks, crypto is down 30-40%. It's crazy. But real estate, the price continues to go up. We don't know what the future holds, but we do know the past says recessions typically don't affect real estate. So, starting out with that fact, that's one reason why you shouldn't be worried to buy real estate in recession. But we'll talk about a few ways you can cover your bases when you're buying real estate in recession. Number 1, make sure you're buying it with secure long-term debt. So if you're buying it with debt and needs to be repaid in 6 months, a year, 2 years, might be a little risky. If prices are temporarily affected and you need to sell in a year or 2, that's going to be really risky. If you're buying it with debt that doesn't need to be, it's a 30-year straight term, like a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac conventional or FHA loan, you're really safe. If you can make that payment for 30 years, no matter what, you're fine. People say, oh, well, in 2008, all these people got foreclosed on. Yeah, because they were on adjustable rate mortgages. And the teaser rate, the beginning lower rate that they give you on those adjustable rate mortgages, adjusted, the rates went way up, and people suddenly couldn't make their payments. And they couldn't refinance because the values didn't keep shooting up like they were. Lenders are not allowing that stuff anymore. And it's kind of up to you. Make sure you've got good debt on your properties that you're going to be able to refinance in 5, 6, 7, 10 years, or you're going to be able to pay off when the note comes due. And again, if you're using a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac loan, a conforming loan, so conventional FHA, VA, those types of loans, those are 30 years straight terms. You just make your payment every month for 30 years and you're okay. The other nice thing about those loans are the lenders do a lot of due diligence on you and on the property to make sure that you can pay your loan. They do not want to own that property, and they do a lot of work to make sure that they don't have to own the property, that you can pay it no matter what. So that's one reason you should feel safe when you're buying a property with a loan like that. There's 2 big things they look at. They look at you. They want to make sure that that's the biggest thing they look at. They look at you. They want to make sure you're creditworthy. They want to make sure you're going to be able to make that payment. And then they also look at the property and want to make sure that it's livable and you can move into it and you could be okay with it. And then they could also resell it in short order if they needed to. And they're going to make sure the value is there. So if the property is valued at $500,000 and you have it under contract for $520,000, they're not going to give you the loan on that. You're going to have to come up with that cash. If it's $500,000 and it comes in at $500,000, They'll give you the loan because they know they can turn around tomorrow if you stop paying and sell that property. So that's number one, have great debt. Have good debt. Make sure, when you have good debt, the lenders made sure you can make your payment every month, no matter what. Number two, maybe have a little bit more in reserves than you normally would buying a property. So if you're buying investment properties specifically, a lot of banks will say, hey, we want to see 6 months reserves in the bank. You need those reserves because if something goes bad, let's say the property takes a 5 or 10% dive in price, you haven't lost money until you have to sell. So as long as you've got money sitting aside here to make those payments, you're okay. Everything's fine, and you're going to be okay in the long run. Number three, the last one we're going to talk about here, is I believe location matters even more in recession. So you see, once you get towards the top of the market and deals get harder to find, people start to look in more obscure areas. They're looking further out. They're looking in the worst neighborhoods. They're just willing to buy anything. But when you're buying in a recession, make sure you're buying in a good location. And that's all relative. So if you're buying a C-class property, buy it in the best C-class area you can find. Find the nastiest property in the nicest area, fix it up, make it nice, but location does matter. And why location matters so much, in my opinion, is when things get bad, people start to adjust where they're willing to buy property. So if you see when the market gets really hot, people can't find a house to buy, it's so expensive, it's so hard to buy a nice house, they're just willing to buy a house anywhere. When the market starts to sour a little bit, people get a little more picky on what they want to buy and where they're willing to buy it. So again, if you want to be in a good position, buy a great house in a great area. If you are an investor and you want to make the most money, buy the nastiest house you can in the best area you can and be able to fix it up, and you'll be in a good position if something goes south or if something bad happens with housing prices. So if you're buying in a recession, make sure to keep those three things in mind, and you'll be in a much safer position than buying in a hot market.